Okay, let's go.
Hello there, Chick Chatters. We are back with another Teen Mom episode. This is the third episode from the family vacation reunion or whatever. And
I am really liking this season so far.
This is a much more interesting family reunion season than I've probably ever seen since Farrah was on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the format's better. I like the real world house type vibe that they have going on.
So they start this off where they left off, which was with Shawn and Jade. And they show Shawn getting a little bit emotional, which I think now you're right, that Shawn really has changed. He just needs to be given more responsibility, or he needs to prove himself in that way. He feels like he's let her down completely. And they have this like really emotional talk, which I'm sure was alcohol fueled, but they show him getting very upset about the past and this and that. I'm sure they were up to like 4 a.m. with this.
And
nonsense.
I feel like still everyone could probably hear them.
What absolutely destroyed me is when they say that Jade is sick with a viral pneumonia and she still went on this trip. Isn't that contagious?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I guess she was told because she came out the next day that she wasn't contagious. I know there's certain things like strep throat and stuff that once you take medication that you're not generally considered contagious, or there's like certain periods, but I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. I guess we'll see if other people get sick.
I'm not taking a risk with that. Remember there was a season where everyone got COVID. Was it Jade or Amber or somebody gave everybody COVID? And they had to I think shut down for a little bit so people could recover from that. So why even take the risk? I don't know. But this woman then went from being sick to going on a vacation to then her wedding. And then where's Chloe been? Poor Chloe.
I started wondering that a little bit too. And usually I think that it's not a very nice thing to be thinking of mothers when they're enjoying themselves. But I did start to think that too, because they start to talk about house again and stuff like that, which I'm already feeling like that's a played out storyline. I can't wait for that to be over. But they start talking about all of that. And I think everything with them is so hyper stressed out and everybody's freaking out all the time. I think that she does make herself sick. And now she's going to, like you said, go from being sick to go on vacation. Then they're going to have their wedding. Then sounds like going directly on a honeymoon. And then they're going to slow down their house.
Sounds like they're not going to see their kid for like 6 months.
Where is your child? And then by the time you get home, you're going to be so exhausted. You're going to be doing 3 to 5 months of a whirlwind of insanity. And now you're sitting in this new house that probably needs a whole bunch of stuff to be organized and moved and shuffled and whatever. Oh man, she sets herself up sometimes, I think, to be sick so that people have to take care of her, because otherwise she doesn't trust people to take care of her if she's well. So she gets sick, she has panic attacks, she can't get out of bed, so that people have to take care of her because she's completely exhausted at that point. But if she would just allow Shawn, and I think they're getting there. I do think that they're really coming over the hill here. I think she's going to start giving him some responsibility, because he can't sell her house and can plan a wedding, but they don't. And not even anything against them. They just don't.
They don't even know where to start.
Yeah. So
the only thing that Dean even cared about was the food, and that's the most input that he had on the entire wedding, because he did not know what he was looking at with everything else. He went to things, but he would be looking around like, whatever you think looks good.
Right. I will present Tyler with a couple options of things I already think are fine, and even then he's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna pick this. Is this okay? Yeah. How much does it cost?
Exactly.
He wants to know what he's wearing, what he's eating,
and what he's paying. This is part of why Jade is so stressed out about possibly becoming pregnant. She needs to let Shawn take over a few things before she thinks about getting pregnant, which is totally fine. So I wouldn't be like, well, what can she be doing so you can become comfortable with being pregnant again? I'm like, just let them focus on relinquishing some responsibilities first. We don't need Jade to be getting pregnant right now. We don't even know where Chloe's at.
Right.
Tyler and Shawn are getting coffee, and Tyler decides to use some Spanish because apparently this man's going to become fluent in Michigan Spanish by the time he's done, because that was the nasaliest Spanish I've ever heard.
No accent, no roll of the tongue. Just one of these. How I'm talking. but
Yep,
in
it's
Spanish.
Michigan Spanish. That's what I'm calling it.
I'm so thrilled though that the production's keying in on this part of Ty's personality because he is really funny. And I do think he's going to try to learn a word a day, and we're going to see it at the beginning of every episode. So far, he has learned, "Do you want coffee?" and "wake up."
Mhm.
So we'll see what's next.
But then we go to a couples challenge where they have to stack up these blocks that say things like commitment, loyalty, trust, whatever those sayings are. And the bottom is what they think they're good at, and at the top is what they need to work on. So they start, of course, with Caitlin and Tyler because they're the most unproblematic couple that is there and have been together for 20 years.
There's the example.
Yep. So they had almost the exact same block setup, except for the top blocks were a little bit
The
different.
first like 3 to 5 were the same, with the exception of a couple just being
Like mixed.
flip-flopped.
So Caitlin's top one was communication, and I think that she just had to pick something because they're really good at communication. I honestly think that they're so good at communication that it could have been one of their bottom blocks, to be real. But honestly, they already have everything else squared away, so they got to put it somewhere. I think it was Zach that said it. Communication can always be worked on.
That's very true. And usually communication is like a cover-all word for a lot of different things, like power struggles and who's in charge and when do we listen and who bends for who. A lot of times people will say communication is a problem just because your partner's not listening to you, but that's not really you're communicating fine and they can hear you. They just are choosing not to. It's true. I think communication is like a general catch-all and it can always be helped. But I know Ty also brought up his anger. So maybe I think Kate might be talking about communication when Ty is angry because she brought up her trauma. Maybe she's shutting down or something when he's mad. I mean, Ty's allowed to be mad. He can't like just shut down and run away.
It's so interesting to me though, because Tyler, maybe it's just because we haven't seen him get very angry, seems chill for the most part.
My partner, his name is Tyler too, and he's kind of that way. My fiance is very, very chill, and he does not have an anger problem by any means whatsoever. And I think probably neither does Ty on Teen Mom. But when he is angry, he's quick to anger and he yells loud. And he won't even be at me. He'll just, even if someone cuts him off on traffic, sometimes he's really chill about that and makes a joke. And sometimes he's really loud and actually mad. Again, not at me, but like will make you uncomfortable to be around sometimes. And I would never say he has an anger problem, and I don't think Ty does either. Sometimes people are just really intense. So that probably does scare Kate because we've seen Kate's mom really have some anger and yelling towards Kate.
Pull her through mud and all types of stuff.
And that's after they've done some significant healing, and it was still bad.
Then they go to Macy and Taylor. Trust was at their very bottom. They have commitment. They got all that down. It just gets to the top. And Taylor thinks that they could work on communication, and Macy thinks it's intimacy. And Taylor thinks that if the communication was better, the intimacy would fall into place, which I agree with. It just depends on how you're looking at it.
That's facts, definitely.
Macy's made it pretty known that intimacy is something that they're struggling with. She said it last episode. She's been saying it. This girl just wants to get laid.
Just like Taylor thinks that if the communication was better, then the intimacy would be better. I think Macy thinks if the intimacy was better, then she would communicate better. So they both have to prioritize that, I think.
Then we go to Cheyenne and Zach. He picked communication, I think, and I think she did too. I don't even remember what Cheyenne put on the top of hers, but I don't know. Theirs was
communication. She put communication and he put intimacy on top.
Oh yeah, because he said intimacy was more than just physical intimacy.
Yeah. I think that they were trying to be fluffy about the whole thing. I don't think they were really trying to get deep. I don't know if they're going to really get deep on this whole vacation.
Her and Zach, no, I think it's really just a vacation for them. And then we get to the actual spice, and that's Corey and Taylor.
The literal thunderstorm starts. I think that it actually starts during Cheyenne and Zach because Cheyenne
started during Taylor and Tyler because remember all their blocks fell.
The wind was picking up, but then it was like thunder, rain. I was actually starting to get concerned for them for a minute out there. Why are they keeping them? Why can't they just halt production for an hour maybe? Usually in all these tropical places, the rain's going to go away unless there's a hurricane or something. So
I don't even know where they went for this, but they totally could have did that exercise.
They were right in front of the, like, you know how they walk out from the place and there's the beach? They were right there. They could have just walked inside for an hour, had some lunch.
And so it's Corey and Taylor's turn, and they start building. He's like, okay, we got the same base, but we find out that trust is going to go at the top for both of them because Taylor doesn't trust Corey because 5 years ago he cheated on her. Now, I have a question for you because I don't watch the challenge, but did he cheat on her with somebody at the challenge or was this Cheyenne? Because I'm getting confused on when this happened. They said it was the beginning of their relationship. And I'm not sure if this is a relationship this time around because I know they've dated off and on, even
I don't know
before
if it even
Ryder.
happened on TV. I do know Corey was known on the challenge for being a welcoming committee in a way. He was very Corey. And that's why on this show, he's like, I've got sex on camera, I've got naked on camera, blah, blah, blah. Because he has hooked up with several women on the challenge. It's possible, but a lot of times there's a lot of men who cheat on girlfriends on the challenge, and you honestly don't even figure out that they have girlfriends until the reunion and people start spilling their tea on them. Otherwise, they just look like, the guys who are open to whoever wants to sleep in their bed that night. And Corey was definitely that guy. I'm sure maybe, but it could have also just been, I think Corey was living like that for a while before he had kids and all of that.
The news of Corey's cheating shakes up Caitlin and Tyler, who are like, we would never do that. I would never put up with that. You're gone if you cheat on me. And
It's a whole different ball game, he said.
It's really hard to come back from that. It's really hard to rebuild your trust. It's not impossible. You can do it.
Right.
Especially because it's so long ago, it can definitely be worked out. I just kind of side-eye Taylor because you don't trust this man, but after his cheating, before you even worked out his cheating, you decide to have children with him. And that's something that I feel like you should have worked through before having kids and before getting that deep. This could have been worked out years ago in therapy or something instead of holding on to it for 5-6 years. And of course, it's always going to affect you a little bit. It's always going to affect your trust a little bit because if he'll do this to you in the happiest parts of your relationship, when you're just dating, when things are easy, when things get hard, you're going to start to question like where he's at, what he's doing, especially when Corey's acting like he's for the streets, hanging out with strippers at night and stuff like that.
He really does have to change a lot of, I think if he changed those behaviors, she wouldn't be later on. I mean, this is just a couple minutes later. She starts bringing up the whole, well, we're not committed. And he's like, well, what's the next level of commitment is marriage. And she says, well, yeah. I'm like, lady, I kind of got frustrated when Kate said, I'm glad that they're not engaged, but I also agreed with her. But I think that it's, like you said, this is something that can and should be dealt with for them. And getting married is not going to make her feel more secure. It will make you have the same last name as your kids, and it will make you feel like it's harder maybe for him to leave you or for you to leave him, but that doesn't make people feel secure. If Corey would just stop hanging out with the strippers and do what she's asking him to do and be even just halfway decent sometimes. I'm not saying he's awful, but he's not acting like someone who's trying to be in a committed relationship, trying to work towards engagement, marriage, family life. He still wants to hang out with his friends. He's literally in front of a therapist like, oh, I just want to hang out with my friends. It's like, that's great. You can hang out with your friends, but there's no grown man who's ready for a wife and kids who's begging to hang out with their friends every single day.
I agree. I find it interesting that she feels the need to have a ring and that's what's going to make her secure. When people cheat when they're married all the time, people cheat with their rings on, rings off. That's not what's going to make you secure. It's not going to make you feel secure. In fact, that's just adding another level of insecurity because then if it doesn't work out, what happens? Then you're almost feel stuck. You shouldn't be adding more and more layers of we're going to add kids, commitment. Yeah, before you work this out.
It's not going to add more security. It's really going to bring them down more and more and make it feel more and more pressuresome when they know they don't have the security between each other. And it's like, well, this didn't work and this didn't work and that didn't work and we must be a failure. No, just go to therapy, talk to somebody. They'll guide you along getting some more security because people deal with betrayal and cheating all the time. And like the therapist brought up, seems like since the kids, there's been a big difference. And that's something that I think she could really anchor into, that there's a change in their family. There's a change in the way that Corey relate and that he is more committed to his family. And that's real evidence. That's a fact. He
I
hasn't
definitely
cheated.
think, yeah, I definitely think Corey is committed to her. I just think that he feels too much pressure about getting married that he doesn't want to do it. And that's the thing. If you keep pressuring a man and pressuring a man and pressuring a man, he's
Especially
not
someone
doing
like
it.
Corey.
He's not going to be
Like,
doing
let's
it for
be real.
himself.
Corey probably would have ended up with Cheyenne if she didn't pressure him into all the stuff she pressured him into. Let's not do that to Corey if you want to be with him, because he will leave a perfectly good, acceptable, wonderful woman from pressure.
Even if he proposed to you, he wouldn't be doing it for himself. It wouldn't be out of
Yeah.
his heart. It would just be to appease you and to make you feel more secure. And who wants that? You want him to do it because that's what he feels and that's where you're at in your relationship. But if you're still upset about cheating and stuff from 5 years ago, which I totally get, I've been cheated on in almost every relationship. So I get that, what she was saying with that. Oh, I've been cheated on in every relationship. I get that. But if you work through it or try to work through it, whether it's through therapy, which I think it's necessary at this point, because it's not just to make sure he doesn't cheat again, it's also to regulate your own feelings about trust and how to build that trust back, because that's something that you'll need if you're going to get married. Because getting married and having a baby, it's not like a wound that you can put a Band-Aid on. Kids are not Band-Aids. Marriage is not a Band-Aid. You don't make those steps until you are confident.
I think Taylor's going to be the one. Usually it's the one who got cheated on that has to do the most work, because especially in a situation like her and Corey, because Corey really can, like the therapist said, just make a decision to get the F out of the streets, because he's already committed. So just act committed now. Just play the actual part. And Corey doesn't have real problem with cheating at the moment or for the last several years. It's really Taylor who needs to do the work now. And it's not that it's her fault, but she's been hurt and she feels betrayed. So she needs to do the work, like you said, figuring out her emotions and dealing with that, because unfortunately, she's the one who's going to have to sit with those hard feelings.
Yeah,
Corey doesn't have a lot to do other than owning up to what he's done, which you
Not
can tell
really.
he's starting to get frustrated too in this activity or workshop that they just did when they both put crust at the
Screaming
top.
it.
He was screaming it all sarcastically. Thank God the therapist called him out too, because it's like, you're also not going to get anywhere with Taylor when you're talking to her like this, because you're saying the right things, but your tone is so shit that it does not matter. You're actually communicating something else. You're talking to her like that.
Yeah, it comes off as defensive.
Get over it. It literally says, get over it.
I get it's been a long time, but if you're not actually putting the time aside to work through it, she's going to keep feeling this way. Unless you actually do something about it, work on it, talk about it. Sometimes you're going to have to talk about it. You might have to answer some of her questions. She's probably going to have questions about why this happened. What could we do to not have this happen again? How do I know I can trust you? I mean, you're going to get those questions all the time unless you actually take the time to work through that and answer those questions for her. Like you said, she's going to have to do a lot of the work. He does too. I feel like it's a 50-50 thing. You also have to be open to her. She can be working on herself and then she comes to you with questions or comes to you with concerns and you blow it off.
That's he can't be defensive either. He needs to be able to sit and say, yes, this is what went on, or no, this didn't happen, or whatever it is that she needs to know at any given time. He needs to be able to deal with himself through that. Because guilt does a lot of stuff to people. People do a lot of weird things when they feel guilty.
And
they
that
lie,
could also
they avoid, they blame, they defend.
If you are constantly feeling like he's going to cheat on you and you're putting that out in the universe, it might happen again. That's why you got to work through it before adding more and more commitments and more pressure and more things. It could just be setting yourself up for a disaster later on when he's like, oh, I'm already being accused of this stuff. Might as well be doing it. A lot of guys think that way. So
that's why I agreed with Kate ultimately when she had brought up her little opinion in her confessional. So I think they just kind of hang out for a couple of hours and everyone ends up taking a nap. And Kate and Ty stay up so that they can gossip
talk about it. Yeah, they wanted to talk about the cheating stuff. They also bring up that Mackenzie's going to be coming to the house, which, okay, we know MTV actually plans this stuff and invites people. Stop telling me that Cheyenne and Jade planned this whole thing and invited everybody. Because if that's the case, then Mackenzie wouldn't have already been invited, packed her bags, and been on her way. Cheyenne would have already known about that.
So Kate and Ty end up hosting a sex lingerie party, essentially. They drop off a whole bunch of paraphernalia to people, and Jade and Shawn pass on the paraphernalia. Well, they didn't pass on the paraphernalia. They took that, but they passed on
Yeah.
the party. So I know Jade's still sick, but I did also think it was funny that Shawn used the opportunity right away. He said he was going to stop drinking, and so he's just going to sit in the room.
He's like, he was not upset about missing that party at all. I gotta say this. OnlyFans has definitely spiced Caitlyn and Tyler up a lot. Now they're throwing sex parties and
I love them. And
then
Corey also shows us
his ass.
His full ass.
Full ass.
I have seen Corey do a lot of things on TV on the challenge. I've not seen all of that.
You could see his hair follicles.
All of them. I didn't need it to be in full HD on my big screen back here.
And Taylor warned us 2 seconds before we see it. She's like, well, Corey's outfit's not going to fit him. And I did not know that was going to mean that I was going to see Corey's entire ass. I thought he was wearing Taylor's underwear or something at first. I had to rewind. It looked like he was wearing either a diaper or Taylor's thong or something.
Everyone was excited, but Taylor was a little reserved. She's still trying to get used to her mom body. And Corey brings her some champagne. I don't know if he was drunk already or if that's something that they call it to each other, but I thought it was precious.
Let me just say real quick, Taylor has a gorgeous body. That is a normal woman's body. She is nearing her 30s. She looks great. I mean, even Selena Gomez is getting a lot of shit for her body, but it's like, these are what real women's bodies look like when you hit your like 30s and when you've had children. She looks great. If people are starting to say that would be fat, she is not fat.
No,
she
that's crazy. We're going in the wrong direction as a society, going that way. Before the festivities begin, Kate wants to get it out of the way to talk to Cheyenne about Mackenzie. And what I don't understand about this scene is that it's very evident that it is a voiceover. The whole first part where Kate is telling Cheyenne Mackenzie's coming and blah, blah, blah. The whole thing is a voiceover. The tone is different. You can't see Kate talking. What I don't understand is they set up that whole situation to make it almost look more so like Cheyenne is going to be upset because her response to that is some kind of chopped up part where Cheyenne talks about Mackenzie's new black boyfriend. I don't even think that was in response to learning that Mackenzie was going to come there. I think that they were all sitting there probably talking about Mackenzie's on the way. And Kate probably said, how do you feel about that? And then they all started talking about the whole situation. But they wanted to slice and dice this whole situation up to make it look like Cheyenne is even more uncomfortable about the situation and that she's calling out Mackenzie. And I don't think it's really that deep.
I don't think Cheyenne would be uncomfortable anyways. If anybody should be uncomfortable, it would be Mackenzie. So
it was all spliced up and voiced over. And I don't think that was the purpose of the conversation or them sitting down at all. I think they were probably just talking about what their expectations were and what they've heard lately about Mackenzie, because that's what people do when a newcomer is about to come in, especially on a show like that. And they spliced it all up to make it look like, Kate had to tell Cheyenne that she's coming and Cheyenne had to say all this controversial things again. It's like she probably wasn't even saying anything controversial. They were all talking about what happened. And hearing more and more about what happened, it still is just wild. Like, Mackenzie has things to apologize for.
Oh, for sure. The first thing they do is they show us this flashback of Kate and Tyler meeting up with her when she was with Josh. And she said this thing about how high school sweethearts, they think it's so great, but it's not. And you could tell Caitlyn and Tyler, like, it's fine with us. So they knew something was off there. Then it goes to Cheyenne telling her story. One of the first things we learn is that McKenzie said to Cheyenne that she was the only black girl she knew, so that's why she wanted her to help her with this. Also, that she didn't know what segregation and Jim Crow laws were. I'm sorry, but did she not take a social studies class in elementary school? Because I learned about segregation, Jim Crow laws when I was probably in 4th or 3rd grade.
I do know that there's some strange standards these days, especially in the South where she grew up, around teaching kids about racism and slavery. But I do still think that they have to be educated.
How do you not know?
The purpose of history they say the whole purpose of teaching us history in school is so that we do not repeat horrible, treacherous things that we've already repeated due to desire for power or space or country or whatever. So I think they have to be teaching them a little bit of this.
I get her not knowing many Black people. I get her not being around that as much. But I don't get how you don't know about segregation. You don't know about Martin Luther King. You don't know
the history of the country that you live in.
That don't make sense to me at all. So she apparently had this conversation with Cheyenne, and the conversation went very well. But at the end, she decided to say, well, I'm so glad that you were so nice about it. My husband said something about you would be an angry Black.
He thought you would be an angry Black.
I don't care if you want to pin a lot of this on Josh. That's fine.
Don't say it.
You know what you're saying.
You were just educated. So don't spew the racism anymore. It's that simple.
That was just horrible to hear. I was like, are you kidding me? She's going to blame Josh. And I know that when she comes in, well, my ex-husband felt this way and this way and that way. But Josh isn't the one on the phone with her saying, I thought you were going to be an angry Black.
Well, and either way, just take some accountability. It doesn't matter what you were doing. You should still say, even as an adult woman, I decided to listen to this man who led me astray. But I could have made up my own mind. Instead, I decided to listen to him. That's a decision that you made. You have a full brain as an adult who's responsible for raising children who should be part of a civil society, but we won't even get into that part with her kids because
we would be here for hours. You can control what comes out of your own mouth. You knew that that was disrespectful to say. I guess Cheyenne made a tweet that was not directed at Mackenzie, but was directed at Mackenzie at the same time about ignorance, which I agree with her. That girl was being ignorant. So I would probably have done something similar.
And it is pervasive. It is everywhere. Otherwise, this girl would not even be able to try to say, I didn't know what segregation and Jim Crow was. Because if ignorance was not pervasive, we wouldn't even be questioning that. But there's just a sliver because people are so ignorant.
Yes. And then Mackenzie decided to come at her for saying that. And then Cheyenne told her to hold her white tears. She does not care about her white tears. I thought that was funny. And then Mackenzie went on live and cried about it. Now, I got a bone to pick, though. Like the people who are watching this show or watching Mackenzie's lives, who's got the time to call a young child's school when the young child did not say anything? And who's got the time to show up at Cheyenne's house to confront her?
White lady.
Who's got the time? Who does that? Who cares to do that? To find where Cheyenne lives, just to knock on her door and say, what? I did not like how you treated Mackenzie. And then what? Were you going to fight her on her doorstep?
The audacity of a white lady who would show up. I would be scared too. That lady's out of her damn mind. Out of her damn mind.
And you could see it all over Zach's face. That really happened. He had to deal with it, and it was stressful. The audacity. I still think it's annoying that people even have the time to send death threats to celebrities and things when they say stuff you don't like. But that's just a DM. That maybe takes a few seconds. But to actually track down this person's house, go drive to their gated community, somehow get through the gates, stand on this woman's doorstep, and then say stuff to her, and then call her child school. How do you even know where she goes to school?
Oh, for Mackenzie.
For Mackenzie.
That's where we know this woman's really unhinged.
Yeah. This had to have been a family friend or something, because I did not see a normal person doing this. I was shook by that whole thing, just as Tyler was. The faces Tyler was making, I was making.
I know.
Caitlin, as she said in her confessional, she might be the only person who's excited for Mackenzie. She is. I'm not excited for her either.
I've never been a fan, and the more I learn about this stuff, the more I'm just not a fan. I know it was a couple of years ago. And to be fair, it does look like she's going to come in with a little bit of accountability. And I mean a little bit. She probably could have done all of this a long time ago. So I will spare my excitement for real accountability. But she's going to have to show her face. So of course she's going to apologize. But anyways, before all of this goes down, before she comes, they end up getting into party time. We see some naked men, a lot, at least
all
3.
of them. Except Taylor, I think.
Yeah. And we have Shawn petting his own head in the bedroom while Jade snores. So he wasn't.
But as they're jumping in the pool, it's exactly what you said last episode with Caitlin and Tyler. Caitlin's getting her content for OnlyFans. Tyler's talking about how this is free content. Y'all should be excited. They end the scene with, this is going OnlyFans. And I was like, this is what Brooke was talking about.
It was so funny.
And she really did have her phone out during that moaning exercise and probably
She
put
sure
that on
did.
OnlyFans.
She sure. I almost want to subscribe to the OnlyFans just to see how much content came from this vacation.
I think Tyler and Caitlin set up this whole sex party for his content.
They probably did. Because then you can get MTV to pay for all the decor. You can get them to pay for all the stuff that they gave away. And so they can take all kinds of photos together later in their strange little sex dungeon that they have going on. What did Tyler call it? A romance seance.
Oh my gosh. They really are into the vocabulary words.
Subscribe to, maybe some of you chick chatters know if you've subscribed to anyone on OnlyFans before. Are there different subscriptions where you can maybe get a non-nude subscription? Can I just get your sexy poses, but no, because I don't want to see what Cheyenne warned me about. I really don't. Because I don't want to see that in my mind every time I look at Ty.
It's true.
I think he's attractive, but I don't want to see his. But I do want to see his OnlyFans. I want to creep a little. I just need it to be blurred. Maybe
it might be blurred. Maybe you have to click on it to see it. Maybe. Yeah, if any of you chick chatters have been on OnlyFans, let us know how it works because you really don't
have to subscribe to the D.
I do want to also mention this is something that Corey said during this sex party. And it kind of threw me off because out of context, this sounds horrible. But he says, I've been waiting for a teen mom. Granted, these women are in their 30s now, but if you were just listening to only that, you'd be like, what is wrong with this full-grown man wanting a teen mom? Think about it. I
don't think that that's what he meant, but it totally sounds
horrible out of context, especially with Diddy and R. Kelly and all the things coming out these days. You can't be saying that.
Just stop it right now. You had one too many large, big-ass ants. Too many aphrodisiacs.
They tell Corey about these ants. Is it that they'll make your thing bigger or harder? I don't know.
No, I don't even think it does that. I think it's just an aphrodisiac, which is oysters are an aphrodisiac. I don't even think they actually do anything. They're just supposed to be considered sexy foods.
I don't know, but Corey thinks it's going to up his manhood in some way, so he's eating all of them. Tyler's disgusted, and Corey's just eating ant after ant after ant. I think he thought it was like a Viagra.
Like a Viagra.
Just eating all these ants was just going to be like a Viagra for him. I don't know. I'm hoping that we find out if it didn't in the next episode.
A substance alleged to increase libido, sexual desire, sexual attraction, pleasure, and behavior.
I don't think Corey needs that. I thought it was going to make something bigger or something.
Yeah, it's not medically for anything. It's supposed to just get you in the mood or feeling spicy.
But it was just funny watching him eat all of those ants.
By the spoon. I think you're supposed to just eat them one at a time. I've seen other people eat, because they're called big-ass ants. They sell them a lot of places out of the country. But I think you just eat them.
This man was eating it like cereal.
If he could have had the whole bowl, he probably would have. And he's been on the challenge, so he has ate some nasty stuff. As soon as everyone gets naked, it seems like Kate calls off the party. She says it's time for everybody to go to bed. So they go to bed. And everyone wakes up feeling hungover. Jade finally feels better, but not as much better. I think with everyone feeling hungover and her being halfway sick, everyone's probably feeling about the same. Yeah. So Jade and Shawn finally go to therapy. We kind of covered a lot of our thoughts really about their relationship and what they get into, but they do share what their needs of each other are explicitly to each other. Of course, Jade is going to say that she needs more from Shawn because that's all she talks about. But Shawn actually responded finally in a way that says, yes, I would like to do all those things. And I'm sorry that I haven't been there to do those things and that I've let you down. But now you need to give me those things that you have taken over. I almost stood up and gave that man a standing ovation because he needs to say it that explicitly, that plainly. I need to be able to take things over. I cannot just go buy a house and sell it because you want me to have some responsibility. That doesn't make sense.
Shawn's grown on me a lot this season, and I think it's just because I really think rehab and all that worked wonders with Shawn, and I hope he stays on this path. I think Jade was also right to tell him maybe cut back on the drinking. It doesn't mean he can't drink at all, but maybe just
Right.
cut back a little bit on the drinking if it's going to make you feel a way. Like you said, he does need more responsibility, and the only way he's going to get that is if Jade releases some of it. You can't just say, oh, I want to take a more traditional role, but then also do everything yourself. You got to trust your partner to go 50-50. And if you can't trust Shawn to go 50-50, you should not be marrying this man in, what, a month?
And the thing is about giving up control, which is hard, and I've learned this just even in little ways in the house because I want to do everything in our house, and I like our house to be clean and pretty much nothing out of its place most of the time. So, as we moved into a bigger house and things like that, I needed Tyler's help, and I let him load and unload the dishwasher a lot, and it saves me a lot of worry and stress to deal with the dishes, and he does a great job of it. But at first, I was always annoyed with where he was putting certain things in the dishwasher or just always picking at things. When you give up control for something, you need to be able to allow that person to do it the way that they're gonna do it. Otherwise, you're just gonna keep doing it your damn self. It's not gonna help.
Me and Dean actually just had one of these recently. He said something about how I don't clean as much as him, and I said, well, I don't like to clean when you're at the house because if I'm cleaning, you come behind me and you move things where you want them. And what's the point of me cleaning if you're just going to clean behind me? He's like, I got to have it here. It's got to be here or here. But then when he cleans my stuff, I can't find it because it's not where I would normally put it. So he's been gone. I cleaned the entire house. It is spotless. But I almost always feel more comfortable doing stuff when he's not there to nitpick something we got to work on. But that's a little bit of control that he's got to relinquish, just like with Jade. You start with smaller things.
Like the dishes and the laundry and the whatever, not taking over the whole finances and things like that. You know, you're gonna have to be a partnership now. So you also don't just dump all this on him either. It's like,
because otherwise he might fail because it's just going to be too much or it's not going to be up to your expectation. This way it's more of a 50-50 partnership instead of you being stressed out all the time to where you're sick and having pneumonia and other things and all stressed out. Every time Jade gets all stressed out and talks about stuff, it's like Christy. I just feel her mom and see her mom.
So much. So they do have a brief little conversation about the pregnancy situation and things like that. And I think it was clarified that once life kind of settles and if Shawn keeps doing what he says he's going to do and Jade allows him to do what Shawn says he's going to do, then they should be in a fine situation to have a baby in a couple of years. They don't have a being Shawn special.
We should.
Now that he's sober. I would love that.
Shawn.
We need a being Shawn. We need a being Corey. We need a being Zach.
Yeah. We've had a being Corey.
We did.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we did.
We need part 2. Because now should have had a being Corey when he was going through all that stuff with his daughter and her heart problems and stuff.
I need a being Taylor, maybe a being Taylor, because I have not seen anything about Macy's husband Taylor either. They're the couple that we're barely covering this season because they're barely being shown. They only show us when they're drinking and
about not having enough sex.
Yeah, it's that or that. So then after they show us Jade and Shawn's therapy session, we start getting more of Mackenzie. She's coming. She's on her way. Things are weird.
She's acting so weird in her confessionals. She's like, I'm a new woman. I'm like, are you Pam Anderson?
She's moved to Florida, so she's now in a whole different, I don't know. I do think Florida has helped her, especially when it comes to the race stuff. Now that she's with this guy, I think she's a little bit more aware and a little bit more, whatever. But nobody meets this girl at the door. They're just trying to figure out where to go, where they are, where are the rooms.
Weird.
Why did Kate meet her at the door? Why didn't Kate know?
Not even Kate. When they all showed up, even when Corey and Taylor were late, the staff met them at the door with drinks and a welcome and walked them in and all of that. Nobody was out there. It was like crickets. And I think, again, the producers set it up to be extra awkward so that they have to just stumble in with all their luggage. And this girl, Mackenzie, makes her boyfriend, who's never been on TV, never met these people, ever walk in first. And I don't blame her. I would do the same thing. But lady,
here's my shield.
It's wrong. Maybe if they see him first, it'll settle the playing field. No.
Yeah.
She did come in with a little bit of accountability in her confessional, which gives me some hope that there will be a good conversation between her and Cheyenne. This is really just the beginning. Nobody greets her. She gets no drinks. She walks in. It's definitely going to be awkward. I think MTV and the cast are setting up for her to have some atoning to do before she's really allowed to be part of everybody else. And who knows if she really will be. And they are setting it up in the preview for the next episode for it to look like Cheyenne and Mackenzie are not going to have a good conversation because Cheyenne just totally turns around and shows this girl her ass.
She just flips on over. This girl is not even tanning. She's in the shade.
She just wanted to full on show this girl her ass. I'm not going to look at you. You can see my ass.
Depending on how that conversation went, because I have a feeling, and this is just my feeling. I have a feeling that Mackenzie, yes, apologized to her, but also put a lot of the blame on Josh. And I just think that that's not very fair because, one, he's not here to stand up for himself. Who knows if he even said that to you? We don't have that on camera. I mean, I'm sure he did. Right. You didn't have to repeat it.
Well, she almost, when she made that comment to Cheyenne at the end of their little web chat, it dismisses everything that Cheyenne just said. She's not just saying what she said, which was completely wrong to say on a lot of levels. She's basically saying, it wasn't me who needed any of this education anyways. My husband's the one who thought that you were going to be an angry black, and he's not here. So it's just completely ignorant. Cheyenne said the exact right thing at the right time, and she didn't call her out publicly. She just made a post. It's your fault if you take offense to it, and you should take offense to it, and you should learn from it and grow from it. I hope that that's what we see from Mackenzie, but I'm not going to have any ill will towards Cheyenne if she doesn't have any empathy towards her or is not warm towards her. She doesn't owe her anything.
I 100% agree. I hopefully will see Mackenzie apologize to Cheyenne and actually feel sincere. Like you said, saying that at the end of the conversation, that just to Cheyenne felt like a waste of her day. She spent her whole day trying to educate you, and then now she's got it. Now she not only did she waste her whole day, now she's just pissed.
She could have walked away at least with a sense of I've helped someone, even though it's not her job to do so. I've helped someone to understand why they should act more appropriately towards other people who look like me. But no, that girl just went and was like, well, thanks for educating me, but I didn't really need this anyways because truly it's my husband who has all these racist things and I'm just going to repeat them anyways because that's how I am.
No. Poor Cheyenne being the resident black girl, now whenever anything like this comes up, she's like obligated to educate people. No, she's not. Go to Google, go watch a few YouTube videos.
Yeah, I don't blame Ashley for wanting to dip out because they really tried to make the whole Cheyenne Ashley friendship work because they're black. They tried to do all kinds of things and really, I think, probably keep Ashley around for longer than they should have and keeping her around still so that they have an extra black cast member. And I just think that that's not
authentic,
humane or authentic. It is 2024. Read a book. Talk to AI, use Google, phone a friend.
There's organizations even.
Like, it's just nuts.
Yeah. There's so many other ways you could be doing this. This is not Cheyenne's problem, but yeah.
Welcome to anyone who is new here, and thank you for watching, especially if you've watched the whole way. Holy cow, you are awesome. We will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.